Okay, so far I have here a piece of pixels code that writes a background color, right? And I'm passing that white. So right now I have 60 times a second looping through the pixels array and drawing the background to be white. This is, I suspect, actually how processing draws the background, more or less. Let me add something to this. I would like to draw a circle right in here, middle of the screen. Cool? You all think we can manage that?
Yeah. No.
Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. All right, so in order to draw a circle, I'm going to make a method called draw a circle. Oh, wait, circle's not a reserved word. I can just call it circle. Okay, and what do I expect circle to take?
Position, radius.
Yeah, probably should take an X, Y, and an R. So I'm going to draw that at width over 2, comma, height over 2, comma, 200 for kicks. Please turn that off, Zach. I can't stand to look at it. It's amazing, but I can't stand to look at it.
Wait, what did you do?
No, sit down. Okay, I need to make a circle method. So, under here, I'm going to make a circle method. What do I expect my circle method to return? That's what I expect it to take, right? I expect it to take an X, Y, and a radius, and I expect it to return a grand whopping total of not a thing. Because I expect it to do a thing, not make a thing, right? It's not running a calculation or somehow crunching a number. It just is going to do a thing. So void circle. And what do I expect it to get? Close. 3 probably floats. Yeah, so in order to actually push anything into the integers or into the pixels array, they have to be integers, right? Why? Yeah, because the array doesn't know which thing's in slot 4.7. Like, that ain't a thing it's got in its brain, right? It's got slot 4, and it's got slot 5. It doesn't have any slot 4.7. So, I'm going to expect this to take floats, but I'm going to have to turn them into integers later. So the reason I'm expecting it to take floats is that I want to be able to set my screen size to 601, right? Basically, it's because good coding practice would say, here, if you're doing division, you should be expecting a float. Okay, so I have a float A, a float B, and a float that I'm going to call R. Why is that not confusing? It's not confusing. Okay, so going back to my trigonometry primer, right? Back over here. A circle centered up at A, comma B has coordinates I put in the wrong slashies. Circle coordinates are what? A plus R times cosine of angle? I don't have an angle.
Isn't it R times cosine thing times comma R times sin?
Yep, so the next one's going to have an R times sine of angle. And then, yeah, that one needs a B, right? Because you went down B to get to the middle of the circle, and then you go down another R times the sine of the angle. But I don't have an angle, guys. Where am I gonna get an angle from?
45 degrees.
Yeah, so we could hard code the angle to be something, but I want to draw a whole circle, right? So to draw a whole circle, how many angles do you need?
Isn't it in the radians?
Yeah, you need lots of angles, right? Like infinitely many in order to do a good job. So I'm gonna get some, I guess, and we'll deal with it. Yeah, so let's start with a couple. So first things first, I just want to test that I'm drawing something. So how do I get access to the pixels array again? I just do pixels, right? Pixels equals, oh, I need a color. Obviously, I would color my pixels randomly. Because duh. Right? I wrote that method for something. Must be good for this. Left-hand assignment. Oh, what's the variable? Variable I doesn't exist. Yeah, I just want to check that I'm drawing something at the center, right? So where's the middle of the circle, just right off the bat? Yeah, it's at width over 2, height over 2, which I passed to this thing, so it's at A, comma, B. You guys see that? So where's A, comma, B in the pixels array? A, comma, B? The primitive type float of A does not have a field B. Ooh, cool. That's a new one. Yeah, it's supposed to get one variable, dude. Why are you passing it 2? So if I go look at my thing, I remember a pixel at x comma y is at.
So it's height over 2 times width plus width.
You can make it array.
Okay, so it's at height over 2 comma width over 2, right? So it should be at, or sorry, switch that. It's at width over 2 comma height over 2. Forget those. I'm writing this method with a and b for x and y. Yeah, so it should be the y coordinate times the width plus the x coordinate, which is a. And now it's whining because type mismatch, float does not match with int. Why does float not match with int? Because it doesn't. Why is it a float? Because I made it a float. So typecast the damn thing. So integer casting of b times the width plus a. Y'all good with that? Really, it would probably be best to integer cast b and add the integer casting of a. That's because if b is 2.1, right, times the width will be 1800 in this case, plus 9. It'll be too far over. Does that make sense? Okay, so this guy, good? Questions? Okay, so where do I expect this to draw a pixel? Yeah, I expect one pixel at the center of the screen to be a random color, right? Does everyone expect that? Where did it go?
Is it white or is it something?
Oh, wait,
Good question.
in the top left.
You rolled a random color. Is it white?
I don't think so.
I've rolled it 3 or 4 times now. Is it possible that it rolled white 4 times in a row?
Yes.
Yes, it is very well, it's possible. It's not very freaking likely. So now that I've rolled it 6 or 7 times, I'm starting to believe that I screwed up.
Large C scores, I think.
Yeah, so this is like 20 standard deviations off the mean. So yeah, the probability of this happening is basically 0. So how many times have you rolled a randomly white pixel anyway? right? It has to roll 3 things at 255 or really darn close for you to not be able to tell. What is the problem? Everybody see it?
Yeah, is it your background? You didn't load or update.
Oh,
You just did stuff.
Yeah, I just did stuff to the pixels array, but I didn't load them or update them. Let's try just updating them. Maybe that'll work. I'm a little bit curious because I loaded them earlier.
Well, you loaded it in the background, which is below what you're doing.
No, I loaded it in the background, which is before what I'm doing.
Oh, did you
So, yeah, so my intention was to draw on the background, right? There it is. Do you guys see it? It's right there. There's a barely freaking flashing random color in there. Okay, so
Yeah, I just get this.
okay, so if you want to do a hack and bashy dumb thing to make it a little bigger, do this. Go down 1.
there has to be
Actually,
another way
that's
to do
up
that.
1, down 1, back 1, and right 1. And now this will make, what shape do I expect this to make? Yeah, this should make a little plus sign in the middle.
That looks like my personality.
This looks like your personality. So there is a little tiny plus sign there. And if I remember right, the Windows magnifier is this thing.
Oh, it's still doing the weird.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's doing this stupid anti-aliasing thing that I can't figure out. I don't know why it's doing that, but whatever.
It's having a hard time.
Yeah, and it's having a hard time trying to figure out how to fix whatever's going on here, because that's 5 randomly flashing colors. Okay, so I have my little plus sign flashing away in the middle of the screen. Now I would like to make a circle. That's a... Okay, so why is it allowing me to update the pixels array even though I haven't loaded it? Yeah, I loaded it in the background 2 method. If I'm gonna decide maybe later not to load the background 2 method, I probably should put this in here. Right? Is that gonna cause a problem? Hopefully not. I don't actually know. That was the first time I'd done that. It looks like it's fine. Cool. Questions, Steels?
What about you use update pixels twice too? That affect anything?
I did use update pixels twice, and that doesn't affect anything except that when this guy, the circle method, loads, because it comes second, the circles, or the pixels array is already populated white here, and then it's updated to include these changes. This update pixels just goes through the pixels and says, okay, now you're all white for real. You guys see that? Like, this is draw this stuff, basically. If you don't include the update pixels, it just won't draw your changes. Cool? Questions? Thanks? Okay. All right. So, next thing's next. I would like to draw my circle. So this was a plus sign at circle center. Yeah, which is kind of a crappy circle approximation. Okay, so now I'd like to draw the circle itself. So how do I draw a circle itself?
Oh my
Do it, write the command ellipse.
Oh,
No!
that'd be insane.
I'm doing something crazier. So it should be noted, this is the way you draw in most programming languages. Most programming languages, you grab the array of pixels that you're dealing with, and then you manually update them one at a time, and then you save it. Because that's how computers think. Processing just does a lot of this stuff in the background. So if I want to go around a circle, remember I had this thing about angles?
Probably computed it.
Yeah, so I probably should get an angle from somewhere. I'm going to be... No. I'm going to be kind of lazy. And I'm going to think about my angle as an integer angle, starting at 0, going up by 1s, and going up to what? Okay. Cool. We'll try 7. And then let me grab my setting 1 pixel, right? So I copy and pasted a line that sets the pixel at A, comma B, right? Where do I want to set this pixel? So, yeah, so that the y coordinate, B, right, should get an R sine of the angle, right? So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to add plus R times sine of angle. You guys all with me? And then I integerized that thing so that we could find the right spot in the array. And then where's the x? Should be at A plus R times the cosine of angle. Cool. Should this should work? I should expect a circle?
Oh, wait, no.
How many pixels are you updating? How many pixels are you updating here? When this goes through, right, the angle's 0, and then it updates a pixel, and then it goes through, and when the angle's 1, it updates a pixel, and then when it gets to 7, the angle's 7 isn't smaller than 7, so it stops. So it updates 7 pixels total, 0 through 6. So, hang on, this will be fun. So I should get 8 pixels, and you can't see them, probably, but they are here, and here, and here. Okay, that's it. I gotta write a multi-pixel method. Alright, so... Okay, let me draw them all so we can see a circle, and then I'll show you how to change the stroke width. So, you're saying if I change angle to 360,
Oh, that's a lot of radius.
it'll work?
No.
Holy crap.
This still works?
Okay, so totally unexpectedly, this does work, but
It's going around a lot.
those are not degrees.
Get you brute force a circle.
Yeah, so the first one, right, was at 0 radians, which is over here. Then the next one was at 1 radian, which is about 60 degrees, give or take. So that one was up about here. Then the next one was at about 120 degrees, which is someplace over here. And then the next one was about 180 degrees, which is like someplace down here. It's a little bit smaller or bigger. I don't know. We'd have to do math to figure it out. And then the next one's at about 240 degrees. And the reason that they're not kind of all stacked on each other is that they're not actually 60 degrees, right?
Oh,
They're kind of like 60 degrees, but they're not actually 60 degrees, so they add up a little bit differently. Right? Really, this has to do with the fact that pi is irrational and blah, blah, blah. But at any rate, this kind of worked. They're flickering a little bit. Why are they flickering a little bit? Yeah, because you're looping through this thing 60 times a second. Right? Because this is in the draw method. If I wanted them to stop flickering, how would I stop them flickering? Yeah, throw a no loop in the silly thing.
square cookie cutter and then bending it into a circle.
Kinda, yeah. So notice that there are a bunch of gaps. If you want to fill in the gaps, what do you do?
Double it. 720.
Yeah, man. Pick more angles.
No, that's gonna take a while.
Yeah, it looks good.
And actually, this looks okay. It's got some little gaps in it still.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Ah,
Let's crank on it.
it's not gonna get to that.
Computer efficiency.
Computer efficiency isn't a
Still
thing.
running. You can see it thickening the line slowly.
No, it's thickened up.
It's thick.
So you can see that you're not quite filling things in, but they're pretty close.
It might mathematically be impossible to fill in those gaps.
There is a non-zero chance that it could.
That looks pretty good, actually. That looks like I finally got most of the gaps filled in. There's some weirdness, like up here it seems to be a little thinner than it is over here. What's going on with that?
Proper shading.
It's not
Because your graphics card is aliasing your screen.
Yeah, and I've also got a little bit of rounding going on. Remember I typecast a couple of things, which is kind of like rounding.
It's fuzzy.
That looks awesome.
that's so weird.
Yeah, and why is it kind of not quite?
Feature.
So here's a question. If I use the ellipse command to do this, would the circle look better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
You would hope.
Yeah,
Throw the
just
ellipse
the ellipse
command
over
and
it.
the void circle command.
So I'm going to make a smaller circle in there, right? So I can compare. So the outside one is the one I made, and the inside one is the one processing made. Oops. And you'll notice that their circle has some of the same issues that mine does, right? See this?
There's fading.
Yeah, I'd see that kind of funkiness going on. There's some like little. Oh, it's actually flat up here at the top for a few pixels. If I look at mine's actually flat up at the top for a few more pixels, but mine's bigger than theirs is, so I'm not entirely clear that these are really super different. Mine did have a little bit harder rounding than I would have liked. We could do a little better. One of the things is that you're calculating the sine of an angle that's really quite large, right?
Yeah.
Like 36 whatever radians. It's probably a bit of a pain. You really could maybe do better by converting to degree, by thinking about those as degrees. So if you do the radians command to the angle, this might look a little better. I'm not totally sure how the radians command exactly works in processing. Yeah, but I don't know what method it uses. There's a couple methods that you could get at this with, and I'm not sure which ones. Switch the angle to 6. To 6?
Why?
It look less impressive.
It's just going to be that appears to be a 6-degree arc in a circle.
Yep. So this is one way you could figure out how big an arc of a circle is. You could actually figure out arc length this way. Right? You can kind of draw a chunk of a circle and then count the pixels that it takes to render it.
I bet you can make processing
That's
count
what the
pixels
Tigers
for
did,
you.
right?
Yeah, and you can certainly make processing count pixels for you by having it loop through the pixels array and like increment a counter if they're not white.
Yeah.
Let's see. So if I make this the 3600 that I had, I just want to see if this looks better. I'm not sure if it does. It looks about the
It
same.
looks, it's more unilaterally like that.
You did have a 360,000.
Oh yeah, I did have an extra factor of 10 in there, didn't I?
No, one more than that.
Yeah, that extra factor of 100.
Oh, I had one more than that?
Yeah, you had
Oh.
360.
Hey, you went a bit wild.
I went a little crazy with my zeros there.
Yeah, it looks.
Okay, well. Oh, actually, this is way worse. You guys see this?
It's because it's only going in increments We need it to be like angle plus 0.01.
Yeah, so this is going in degrees, right? And the thing is that they're 360 degrees and 720 degrees end up at the same spot. So you would want some kind of slightly finer. Cool. So I did worse by doing radians, right? By typecasting to radians. If I wanted to think about them as degrees, I might do this. And then crank this down a little bit. Oops. It's plus equals, not equals plus.
Oh no.
Where did they all go?
It's still rendering.
No, it's not. Can't
Yeah,
be
it's-
still rendering.
Yeah, it is. Otherwise, it would display the real ellipse. This is what happened with my.
No, it's not still rendering. It fell into an infinite loop.
No, because it has to count. Move the window out of the way. 'Cause it has to
I know
count
it
to
should have stopped.
3.6 million.
But that's exactly the same idea.
Oh wait, huh?
Oh, that poor console.
Oh, it's because angle's an inch, so it's just eating the point.
Oh yeah. So it did fall into an infinite loop, right? You guys see that? So processing is a little weird because it lets you have that infinite draw loop. Most programming languages will like do what this is doing and basically just sit there and hang if you fall into an infinite loop. Processing does have that one loop that's built in, which is kind of cool. Most of the time you don't get access to something like that. So, unfortunately, yeah, I'd have to make angle a float, and I'm not sure that you Gloat? Okay, cool. So it'll let me loop on a float. Maybe it'll work. Not fast enough. Because that needs to get to what?
3,600.
Yeah.
But
And then it'll display.
Yeah, it'll get to, so eventually here it'll get to 3,600. And then it'll display, and then it'll do this again, right?
Efficiency.
3.5 million iterations per.
Why is it still going? I closed the window. Stop that.
That's worse.
What happened up here?
Oh god.
It's a feature.
Oh, it's still drawing the background?
I have no idea. This was a terrible idea. Whose idea was this?
Yours.
I'm trying to do low-level programming at a high level.
Yeah, this is... Ha! Oh, and now it's trying to update again. So you'll notice that it's not flickering,
Oh yeah, because that would be.
But it will.
right? They're all statically the same color because it hasn't yet updated again.
Stays
And-
like that. Stays in like that. I want to see what happens with it.
And it's just going to change all the colors. It'll look exactly the same. And updated?
Yeah,
It
it
changed colors? I didn't even see it. I was looking at the counter. Yeah, so this code seems like code's frame rate to
1/6.
yeah 1 per 6 seconds or something.
No, 1 per 60 seconds. Sorry.
0.1.
Yeah, it does take a little while.
Make the frame
Okay.
rate something absurd.
Anyway, it won't matter. So the frame rate, right, is limited by the complexity of the computation you're doing, and that's obviously a fairly complex. So if you set this down a little bit, it should go a little quicker. So there's two ways to loop through. Probably looping through in radians is easier, right? And you just let it deal with the fact that they're not drawing consecutive pixels. Now this is drawing consecutive pixels, and I'm looping around what? By hundredths of degrees here, which is way smaller than the resolution anyway. Yeah, looks legit. That is straight up a circle.
I do make this the circle like the line on the circle.
Okay, so if you want to make things thicker, you can do this same hack we did to make the little plus sign.
Done.
Right, so you take this line 5 times and do +1 to the height, -1 to the height, +1 to the width, -1 to the width. and run, and then you should get a bigger, thicker circle.
There's a slightly better way to do
Surely there is a better way to do this. Yeah, there is a better way to do this. The better way would be to write a multi-pixel method.
Or to use the ellipse.
They call it stroke.
Or put raise instead of
And
raise.
yeah, so what you would do is you
The lower digit.
would set a multi-pixel method, and it would take an argument that's some number, right? And then when you set a pixel, you would always pass the positions and the weight, and then you would have the stroke weight be a global variable that you might call stroke weight, right? Which we have a method to change. Someone did this for processing, right? Like someone sat down and wrote all these methods, and they just live in the background of processing.
The person.
Yes, the
that.
person.
Yeah, the person.
This is basically a mechanical Turk. All right, questions on this? Okay, cool.